Welcome to the Feel Better, Be Better show. Today, Kate and Nevada will answer your questions and introduce new topics designed to help feel better and be better. These are raw conversations, but they will make a difference.
All right, let's see here. So we're still doing the whole what we're teaching our kids. So this time we're touching immortality.
Immortality. Talking about how to live forever?
Mobility.
Immobility.
What do we cover?
We covered moral.
Morality. That was what it is. Morality. That's right.
The other M word.
Yeah, the other M word. I was thinking mice, but what do I know? So yeah, a little. What morals are you trying to get out of whatever situation you pop into?
Yeah. How do you teach your kids the morals you want them to impart into their lives?
Yeah, without going, you're gonna think this.
Yeah, or not telling them anything.
Right. That's my moral. I'll figure it out.
It's fine. The world will teach them. Well, and I feel like we worry that kids are not going to be able to handle certain truths about life that hundreds of years ago were just part of life. Like, for example, my kid with our cat that died. I love this story because she's just so curious about how everything works and life and death, and has had a lot of questions. And our cat was really old and she died. She wanted to see the body. There are probably people who are going to scream about me at this, but I let her because there's nothing morbid about it. It wasn't torn apart or anything crazy. It wasn't gory.
Cat died of old age.
The cat died of old age, and she was just curious about the process. Now, there were a bunch of questions about, can we dig it up and, research its bones later, which, great questions. A little morbid, but, it's a good area to talk about. But
you just think of what she's going to do when you die.
Yeah. I'm good donating my body to science anyway, so she'll be right in there. She can be the one to do all the experiments. Geez, my kid is going to be a mess. But, there's a lot of areas like that, her being 4 when that happened, a lot of people could say she shouldn't see death. Well, why? It's a natural part of life. If we act like it's not, she's going to feel like it's so taboo to even think or talk about it. And then when someone dies, how do you even grieve? Same thing with a lot of other topics that you go about. I
can think of that one, that specific topic, just in me and my own sister. I just have one sibling, my sister, and I can't remember what the situation was, but it was somewhere Mom and Dad wanted to talk to both of us. And James was like, I wonder what this is about. And I was like, I bet Dad probably has cancer. And she's, no, why would you think that? And I was just like, the guy smoked for 40 years. And the doctor he had, he would ask my dad if he wanted a chest scan. And my dad would say, no, I'm good. And the doctor would say, okay, no problem. And you're like, bro, for real? Doctor, Dad, somebody get a scan, my Lord. But anyway, he had to go to this new doctor and made him do a chest scan. And in a couple months, we wanted to talk to us. So, I was just like, to me, it kind of made logical sense. Now, that wasn't the case. Dad's fine, all that good stuff. But it also sparked an interesting conversation between me and my sister because it was so morbid, so taboo to even consider and think about and do that. To where I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure Mom and Dad are going to die someday. I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm probably going to be pretty torn up about it. But I also have to be realize that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so what do I need to know and do, and what answers and everything do I need to have in order to be able to feel fulfilled for that situation? I don't want to have something hanging out that, man, I wish I would have asked Mom and Dad, blah. Yeah. Before it's too late. Yeah. And so that's just kind of the way I always took it. I had a couple close friends that, had some accidents and died in high school. I don't know, maybe that did some of it. I know I had a very close grandfather that died when I was right at the wrong age. Just old enough to know, but not old enough to understand. And so, it was just one of those things where I'm like, accidents happen. Things go through things. So don't be afraid to really kind of express yourself at that time. Mm-hmm. But we don't teach that.
No. And the sad reality is we do that with a lot of things that are kind of like coming of age things. Death is not the only thing. I remember my mom, she would not talk about, starting your period, shaving your legs, using makeup, any of that stuff. You don't talk to your kid about that, they're going to find out from someone else. Do you want them to find the information from their peers? That's a crapshoot of if that's going to be a good call or not. Who knows what they'll find from there. I did the bulk of that for my sisters because my mom was so uncomfortable doing it. But it's one of those like...
How else are you supposed to learn?
What do you mean?
I mean, what was your mom thinking? That
I don't know. I thought she just never...
Isn't that kind of like the exact role of a mom?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's one of those, like, if you can't have those conversations because it's like, oh no, my daughter's starting to go into middle school, like, you probably should talk to her before she starts her period and freaks out because she doesn't know what the hell's going on. Or the school has to tell what's going on, or their peers have to tell...
I just started bleeding!
Yeah, or her peers have to, like, explain to her, you know, what's happening, or what they know about the process, which they're the same age, so who knows what they know. Like, I mean, the whole idea is to pass down wisdom and help people grow and get comfortable where they're at. So if you're not having these conversations and not letting your kids experience that as they grow up, how are they ever going to find out what you want to help them find out about the world and be able to process it as they get older? I don't know.
No idea. Now,
the internet is a black hole of all kinds of crazy information.
I bet if you put in the symptoms of like what you got on like your first period, you didn't know what was going on, it would probably say that you probably have cancer.
All kinds of problems there.
I'm bleeding. What happened? Probably cancer. Contact your doctor. No, interesting though. So as we were kind of talking, you've been around me. You know, I'm kind of blunt. Might be a nice, not a strong enough word for me, but I think when we're kind of sitting here talking about this, there is a level of tact. Mm-hmm. And I would like to think that I'm pretty good with my tact. I know there's some times where it's like, it's okay to warn me about, hey, let's not quite go all the way on this scenario. You can give a little bit of give a little finesse to it. But I just want to make sure that you're not just being blunt to be blunt. But I think the more you try to sidestep something because you don't want to reveal the truth behind it, I think the more that kids in particular, they can feel that. They know something's going on. They know you're not telling them the full truth. What do you do when you think somebody's not telling you the full truth? You pretty much usually go to the most extreme. You tend to go to the farthest ends of things. So if a kid's asking you something and you don't want to really give them the answer, and you kind of very much evade the question, they're probably going to think the worst scenario. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what we do. So why wouldn't they do the similar? And so that's why I have a hard time. Now, there has been times where a kid did ask me a question I didn't want to answer. And I pretty much told them that. I said, look, I'm sorry, but I'm not the right person to answer this question. You need to ask your mom and dad. And I mean, and it's funny because the kid kind of like, okay. You know, and it was just like, I'm not the one to answer that one for you. So, I mean, that's why I try to stick away from. But I mean, you see me with the girls when we're coaching. I mean, there's plenty of times we're getting into conversations that it's just like, I don't know, I just kind of just told them exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
They're gonna find out somewhere, somehow.
They are. And I mean, that goes out for all your morals that you want to impart to your kids, you know, as they grow up with sex and drinking and even, you know, financial stuff and health and everything we've talked about up to this point and probably we'll talk about after this point. Mm. If you never are willing to talk about it and help teach them the things you've learned and the stances you've gained and maybe what areas are gray areas and all that, how do you expect them to ever think through it and know that stuff in the world? They're going to be completely blindsided when they get out there and have to like make a decision on the spot. Mm.
You just said an interesting part of all this, the moral side of things. Mm-hmm. We've been kind of going through a little renaissance here, especially over the last, I would say almost 40 years, where it's been at least pretty well, almost in your face, talk about kind of the whole thing of, like, don't put your morals on me, mm-hmm. which I totally understand. I respect. I embrace that you really shouldn't put them on people. But you, as a parent, I'm just curious where you fall in this, because I know where I fall in it just as a coach and a mentor to people that are younger than me. At what point and what level do you start trying to enforce and teach morals? And how important do you see it? Because to me, I see it greater than almost a lot of the other things. Like all the stuff, the coaching stuff that we're doing, to me, teaching them certain morals about life are almost more important than teaching them how to throw and catch.
Yeah, but a lot of it, I feel like from just not putting my morals on them, but letting them know where I stand through my actions and my words, I think is the biggest part for me.
Well, I think on morals in particular, you either better lead by example or not at all. You can't try to push something on somebody.
Because I don't think I would like to say, and I hope I don't, but I would like to think I would never go to Harper and be like, you have to do this, this, and this is what we believe and this is why. But
which we used to do,
but I very much would rather it be like, listen, this is what mom believes and you have to make up your own decisions, and I would like you to agree with me on it for whatever reasons, but I want you to feel comfortable enough to talk through it with me to be able to make a decision. But I want to be able to live a life that she's like, no, my mom is going to stand for this thing, or this is important to her, and she knows that.
Maybe we should pick one so we can actually...
What one do you want to go with?
I don't know.
Trying to think of one.
I don't know, why don't we go with something simple like, maybe always answering a message or something like that. It's not a big, huge, heavy moral, but it is kind of a belief of how you should act.
Yeah, I'm not always good at that with text messages. Sometimes I forget.
No, but what I'm trying to get at, though, is when your kid does get to that point and they kind of say something about how they didn't answer that message or something like that. Well, again, you're at this point that even though you may not be good at messages and always returning them, you now have a moral situation where you're teaching some kind of a morality. How are you going to go about teaching her? And how are you going to go at it? So to me, it's pretty simple. You tell basically like, I really think you should get back to them, even if you're not going to necessarily give them the answer. Even if you're saying, "I'll get back to you when I have time," or that's kind of rude, but I'll get back. I need to think about this. Can I get back to you later? Something like that.
I don't even think that's rude though, because I think the hardest thing for me is a lot of times I don't get back to people because either I don't want to give them the answer that I need to give them, or I need to think about it, and then I forget through busyness of life. And so I think it's fine to the thing that I've shifted the last 2 years is really trying to work on boundaries when I've had communication of, it doesn't have to be like a whole huge explanation of why I can't do something and all that stuff. A no is fine, or like, thanks for thinking of me, but I just really can't do that right now. Appreciate the opportunity.
Wow, I didn't think you could say those words.
Well, I'm not saying them to an actual person at the moment. Should have said them last night, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, so funny. You literally came to me and you're like, "I'm sorry, you want me to do this?" And I was kind of like, "For me? Are you sorry for me or for you? I can't tell which one you're sorry for because I'm pretty sure you're sorry for yourself because you know better. You shouldn't be saying yes."
Yeah. It was a rough night. Anyway.
I think the big thing for me, like on that relationship with your kid, is that you basically, to me, I think the only way you can do it is to say, well, I do this because of these reasons and this. And if you don't, I feel that you have this, this, and this. And if the other side of the person says, if you don't, then that person may feel like this, this, and this. And that's why, for me, I kind of like, you're kind of just having the conversation. Like almost you need to pick whichever one you want to stand for. And then I'm going to not answer to them. Okay, well, you're going to be known as the person that doesn't face the situation or whatever it is.
Yeah, I thought of a good example.
There you go.
So, we had to talk through it, and I came up with one. Farmer's market. Harper was with me, and she was wanting to play with a couple of the older kids, and they didn't want to play with her. So they came up with an excuse of why she had to come be by me.
Sure.
One of the moms didn't want her at their booth, which was, I know was a lie. Harper didn't know was a lie. And of course, she's upset, and she's crying, and, doesn't understand why the bigger girls don't want to hang out with her. So we had to have a real tough conversation of like, listen, older kids sometimes get into a phase where they think they're too cool to hang out with younger kids. And so, you can't push it, but you got to let them do their thing. And eventually, hopefully they see that that's not cool to do. But the whole conversation led into like, okay, what you do affects other people. So you've talked about situations at school where you maybe have not been as nice to other people, but when you exclude other people, they're going to feel what you're feeling. It was a conversation of like, how do you want to make other people feel? You don't have to include everybody because that's not always appropriate, but how do you do it in a way, if you can't include somebody, that you're not just unnecessarily being mean to them? What does that look like? And so I felt like that was something where I could kind of share, like, this in that situation is what I would do. And, you know, of course, her answer is she wanted me to just go talk to the other mom and make them play with her, which doesn't solve the problem. We know that. But just having that of like, okay, this happened, and I can't fix what happened, but you can learn from it, and you can find your morals of how you're going to treat people if you're in that situation on the other side. So.
No, I think really diving into that scenario, you know, like you talked about, like you've done that with kids at school, and so what you're feeling right now is what they felt. So I mean, what can you learn from this? I mean, there's plenty of people that would just be like, "There's no way I'm going to tell my kid that. I don't want them to lose their self-esteem or whatever," and they'd be over yelling at that mom, and of course the mom's going to be going like, "I mean, she can come play."
Yeah, because that's what's going to happen. She's going to be like, "No, Ellie, you have to play with her." And then she's going to be resentful the whole time. It's not going to fix the problem.
It's going to be ugly.
Yeah, it makes it worse. And instead, you know...
Well, then the funny part about it is you probably get a bullying situation where she's going to be so mean to make Harper go away.
Yeah. Well, and I told her the year before, because she had some stuff with this going on, where she was like, I just want to be friends with her and she didn't want to be friends with me. And I told her, I was like, listen, not everybody wants to be my friend. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, and that's fine. You don't need everybody to be your friend, because there's a lot of people out there who aren't very nice, or who aren't going to respect you, or maybe they are nice and they just don't fit with you very well, and that's okay. You can have a good group of friends and not be friends with everybody. That's a thing in life that you have to learn. And so instead of making it like, oh, it's fine, she probably didn't mean that, or something, it's like hard truth. Like, no, she doesn't want to be your friend right now. Hopefully that changes at some point because you're a great kid, but she does not want to be friends with you right now. So you need to give her space, and maybe she'll come back and maybe she won't. And if she doesn't, she's not a good friend. She doesn't want to be your friend. And that's okay.
Well, you're also teaching respect for the other person's feelings. You're basically like, look, she doesn't want to, so we don't want to force her to do something that she doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing, especially for a 5-year-old to get. That's a real tough thing.
Yeah. And she doesn't fully get it. But hopefully with enough of those conversations, she will learn along the way that, you know, it's okay.
Now, I do want to come all the way back on that story, though. I've seen it plenty of times where the mom in your situation would literally go to the mom that the kid said the mom said, which we're both pretty much under the impression that was probably not what happened.
Well, it wasn't, because the mom wasn't at the booth. So I knew it was not the truth.
Exactly. So, or the kid, and but I see two things happen here. Either you go to the kid that said that and approach the kid. The kid's then going to placate because you're an adult. And again, like I said, it's probably going to end up in a situation where they're going to be pretty mean to your kid, as we call it now, bullying, because she wants the kid to go away from her.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, that kid would be getting taught that it's okay and right to be mean to do that. Not exactly the teaching I think anybody would like to see happen. In the other scenario where the mom is actually there, and you go talk to the mom. Now, the mom either does one or two things. I mean, granted, there's a couple other things. Well, if you're going over there, the mom's either going to do one or two things. She's either going to basically tell you, no, I don't think so. Probably isn't going to happen because we've all been trained not to do that. Now, probably should say, no, I'm not going to do that because I didn't say that. I will deal with my kid lying to you and lying to your ear. I'll deal with that. But obviously the kid doesn't want to do something, so we need to figure out whatever we need to do. Yeah. I'm not going to force my kid to go play with your kid, though. And then have a real conversation about that. That's one. Chances are, probably the most common thing is going to be she's going to turn around to her kid and tell her kid to go play with them. Which is, again, going to teach the kid to bully the other kid. And then we're going to deal with that scenario. And we've seen those time and time again, heard those stories all day long, all the time. Here it is, common, just circle of doing those every single time. When really, it probably needed to have almost a serious, blunt conversation on that one of like, this is just the way it is. And we just can't do that. It's like we're too busy worrying about hurting somebody's feelings.
Yeah. I think about that too in regards to teaching our kids that play on sports together, because you have a lot of different personalities on a team, and you have a lot of kids from different backgrounds and different, social groups at schools. And I think a big thing that I've tried to preach with a lot of the girls, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect at this because we've had some problems in the past, is that I don't really care. I don't need you guys to be friends with each other. You don't have to be buddy-buddy. I don't need you all to hang out and be besties and love each other. Don't care. You don't need to be at that level, because I understand you're going to get along with some people better than other people. You need to be respectful of your teammates. You can be respectful without being friends and hanging out all the time. It is possible to be on a team and be there for each other without being detrimental to that person. And that's a skill I feel like a lot of people have lost too. If you don't like someone, you don't have to have anything to do with them. Well, we have to work with people we don't like all the time.
You see me do it all the time.
Yeah, so how do you figure out how to get along and be a team and work together? If someone's really a problem because of some sort of behavior that needs to be addressed, that's a whole different conversation. But if it's just you guys don't mesh, okay, how do you make it work?
Well, true. There's a couple interesting things you have on that one. For me, you've actually heard me say I don't like this person and recommended him to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't doing that because I had to deal with this person. I wasn't being mean. I think the thing I always came back on is I'm like, we all kind of have our friends. We have our groups that we hang out with. We have the groups that we don't. And we have these people that we like and these people that we don't like. And you know what? Just because I don't like somebody doesn't mean that nobody else should like them. That's kind of messed up. I mean, it's an interesting kind of a possessive thing. Like, I don't like them. You shouldn't like them either. It's just like, maybe they're your cup of tea. It's not my thing to question that. The other side of that is that I've been, caught's the wrong word, but I mean, I've at least been exposed to the fact that I had documented things where I said this happened, but by the time a couple of years had gone by, in my mind, it had completely changed. Mm-hmm. And I think if anybody really did some documentation on that, where you wrote down what you felt about this and came back at it later, you would find it might be drastically different. Mm-hmm. And so I try to always remember that when I'm thinking of somebody that I dislike. Now, I probably have the feeling, I probably have a reason, whatever, but was it rooted in fact? At this point, I don't even know if I know. And so I try to then give them the benefit of the doubt. That's one. Two, they may have been that horrible situation I remember from back then, and have turned the corner and changed their lives. So, and now they're a completely different, better person. So I'd rather give them the benefit of the doubt. That does not mean that I'm calling up everybody that has ever slighted me, like, want to hang out, bro? No, I'm not. I mean, but at the same time, I can hope that everything works out great for you and you turn into an amazing individual. You just don't have to be an amazing individual in my life.
Yeah, you can set those boundaries and be cordial and be able to work together without being in all parts of everybody's life. Mm-hmm. That is a thing that is possible.
I just hope everything works out great for everyone. And I know that makes me crazy, but I'm a little crazy. So let's see here. I'm trying to remember all the things we've covered on the failings of our younglings.
Well, we've already gone over sports and health and nutrition and finances a little bit. And then we've talked about morals and labels and all that, which, I mean, honestly, these are probably long enough for another whole two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I figured morals was part two. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I think to sum it all up, though, is I think you've picked up on it a lot. And I think I've tried to make sure I steer that a little bit more without even saying it. But every action that we're doing, those kids are picking up. Mm-hmm. Every way we handle any situation, any bad situation, how it's handled, any comments between each other and stuff like that, they're picking up, they're learning, they're seeing what is okay, what is not okay. What are we saying? What are we allowing? What kind of things are we training and teaching is okay? Mm-hmm. And sometimes you got to go through it. You got to be able to look at it from like a third-party view. It's really hard to do. It's not exactly, and I don't always see them all the time either. But we do, I think we've constantly kind of had this, me and you, and we kind of included in with Gabby and a couple other people, where we're constantly kind of coming back going like, are we doing this right? Are we making sure we're teaching the kids the right things? Mm-hmm. Are we getting the right are we doing the right ways to be able to teach them the things that they need to learn?
Yeah. And I think that's with everything, because not only the sports and learning the skills, but like I even apologized to you the other day for how I said something to you when we were out on the field, because I want them to see how to appropriately like communicate with other people. Yeah, I'm the head coach, so I'm kind of in the leadership role, but how do I be a leader who is inclusive to other people's ideas and isn't just barking orders at everybody? Because I know sometimes in the moment, like when you're going, it's easy to do. And there's times I catch myself, I'm like, that came off really rude and not what I meant. And so how do you show what those relationships look like? How do you do, you know, obviously when you're sitting around talking stuff about home stuff's going to come up or whatever, you know, how do you handle that situation where they're learning from that too?
Well, if it makes you feel better in that situation, I had actually talked to the girls before you came over, and I was like, yeah, she thinks she's in charge and everything. Then she finally gets like the spotlight. She likes to, she goes full crazy on us on that and everything. But don't worry, I still told her what to do.
So nice of you. I appreciate it so much. I'm sure the girls just totally believed it.
Oh, all of them did. I'm sure they did.
They're like, yep. Totally the brains behind the operation. It's not collaborative at all.
I don't go by that term. I go by mastermind.
Oh, okay.
There you go. All right, I think that pretty much covers about all we can. I'm sure we'll have some more, though, because other things just pop up all the time.
All the time.
So with that, I guess we'll let people go. Out. Peace out. Gandhi. Which one are we going here?
Gandhi.
Gandhi.
There you go.
There we go.
Thank you for watching Kate and Nevada. Hope you've enjoyed this show and found it useful and empowering. If you have any questions or comments, please contact them at kinetics.com. That's KNETICX.com. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And please write a review of the show. Kate and Nevada appreciate hearing the feedback, and they welcome your reviews, and your word of mouth will help others learn how to feel better and be better.